Page number 45. Unit 3. Summarization. Unit structure. 3.1. Objectives. 3.2. Introduction. 3.3. What is summary writing? 3.4. Why summarize? 3.5. Characteristics of a good summary. 3.6. Steps to follow before writing a summary. 3.7. Steps to follow while writing a summary. 3.8. Examples. 3.9. Exercises. 3.10. Let's sum up. 3.1 Objectives. The objectives of this chapter is to help learners understand the importance of summary writing as it is an integral part of the reading comprehension skills and understanding the aptitude of scanning and skimming by finding the key points and the main idea of students gradually we can become more skillful readers and particularly writing it concisely with precise vocabulary enhances one's writing skills. 2.2 Introduction. This chapter introduces the students of the concept of the summary writing and how and why it is important in today's English language. Analyzing and understanding a summary writing is definitely will help students comprehend and correspond better, which is indeed an integral part of one's communicative skill and personality development. 3.3 What is summary writing? Summary is the compressed version of a larger reading. Usually it is the short description of a story or a piece of writing where only the central idea and the supporting information are included. The original piece should not be rewritten and one should express the main idea and the relevant details in one's own words. The objective of writing a summary is thus to express in short and in one's own words what the writer wants to correspond in the piece of writing. Writing a good summary definitely demonstrates that one has very thoroughly understood the text and is capable of communicating the understanding to the readers. Initially, summary writing might seem to be a complicated form of the art because it's often tempting to include most of the information or not to include anything at all. But it is this balancing of the important and non-important context that supports in creating a perfect summary. Knowing which points to include is undoubtedly important, but knowing what to leave out may be even more helpful. 3.4 Why summarize? Writing a summary is definitely an important skill that students can use throughout their academic career and even later. In addition, summarizing undoubtedly improves reading skills as students speak out the main ideas of the text through a proper reading and analyzing. It also helps with vocabulary skills as students paraphrase the reading material, altering the vocabulary and grammar as they do so. In addition, critical thinking skills are improved as students decide on the central ideas of the text that should be included in the summary. Finally, writing and editing skills are enhanced as students draft and edit the summary, and if students work with peers throughout the writing and revision process, it helps with cooperative learning. 3.5 Characteristics of a good summary can be understood without the reference to the original as hints an accurate replica of or contains only the ideas or the information of the original. Inconcise without any unnecessary detail is a clear, cohesive, and a complete piece of writing. 3.6 Steps to follow before writing a summary. 1. Skim the text. First, try to understand the piece of the text and focus while reading without taking down notes. It should just be reading to get one's mind around the main points. 2. Read the piece thoroughly. To understand the specifics of the piece, the content should be thoroughly read again. Notes should be taken down and key passages should be highlighted. Even one should divide the parts and sections and the author's main idea should be taken into consideration. 3. Outline the text. The support points should be noted down using one's own words. Read, mark, and annotate the original. Highlight the topic sentence. Highlight the key points or keywords, phrases, highlight the concluding sentence and outline each paragraph in the margin. 3.7 Steps to follow while writing a summary. 1. Clearly identify the work. There should be a clear identification of the work which will automatically let the readers know that one is summarizing a piece of another writer's work. The source, author, first or last name, title, date of publication, volume number, place of publication, publisher, URL, etc. should be clearly mentioned. To summarize the piece as one whole, omit nothing important, one should strive for overall consistency through suitable transactions. While summarizing language like the article claims the author's suggest can be used, the ideas should be presented in neutral fashion without including one's opinions or ideas, interpretations, and should be concise as far as possible. 3. The layout. The main idea of the original should be paraphrased. The major points should be in outline form. The major supporting explanations, example, reasons, causes, or effects should be properly connected. For the writing tips, should be written in the present tense, should be ensured that the author and title of the work are included, should be concise. Definitely a summary should not be equal in length to the original text. If the words of the author are used, then that should be cited. Own opinions, ideas, or interpretations should not be put into any the summary. The purpose of writing a summary is to accurately represent what the author wants to say and not to provide an analysis. 5. Conclude with the final statement. It should not be one's own point of view, however, it should reflect the significance of the article from the author's standpoint. 6. For accuracy. Check for accuracy without jumping to any immediate conclusion. It should be checked that nothing is omitted and no personal interpretations is in any way expressed. 7. Revise the work. Now that the work has been monitored for accuracy and efficiency of tone and writing, one should finally check the spelling, grammar, and punctuation errors. 3.8 Examples. First, summarize the following article about the reasons for child abuse in not more than 120 words. The childhood years are supposed to be the best times of one's life, playing and having fun. Yet there are many children who are deprived of this childhood. They are tortured and verbally, physically abused. There is no reason or excuse for child abuse. Abusers claim they do it because of the stress of work. Child abusing housewives, so the way they feel harassed by a crying child and are unable to curb their own fury, especially if no support is received from anyone. This is not surprising since support is extended to a victim of child abuse more readily than to the perpetrator. Occasionally, parents may vent their frustrations on their child if they fight and quarrel with each other. In cases like that, it is the children who are the victims. In this modern age where both parents are usually holding jobs, children are left with babysitters and nurseries. Abuse by these carers may occur when there are too many children to be minded. The disappearance of the extended family system is partly to be the blame of these incidents. Crowded homes and financial problems can also lead to child abuse. When there are too many mouths to feed, parents feel the pressure and vent their anger on a child. Substance abuse is another factor which increases the incidence of child abuse. Under the influence of alcohol or drugs, a parent may not know what he or she may be doing, or rather knows what he or she is doing but is not bothered at all. A drug addict may experience mood swings and is easily provoked by a crying baby. Thus, we see and read horrifying reports of a child being savagely tortured and dumped elsewhere like garbage. Psychologists believe that child abusers may have been victims of abuse themselves. Thus, in anger and hatred, they repeat the vicious cycle of abuse. Some have no love for the children they abuse. Some have been brought up to believe that children should be beaten in order to maintain control. These are troubled people who need help. A home is supposed to be a heaven where the child ought to be feel safe and secure. Unfortunately, more often than not, the home is also where the child is abused. Whatever the reasons for the abuse, something must be done to stop the cruelty and help these parents who simply cannot cope with parenting. Parents to be should be counseled and inculcated with parenting skills. The Child Protection Act, which was passed in Parliament in 1991, does not effectively prevent child abuse. Stricter enforcement is necessary, thus it requires a commitment from each individual to help families with victims and troubled parents or perpetrators. And so the child abuse can occur when parents are unable to cope with the stress from work and family commitments. It may also occur when children are left the childminders who may be too busy with other kids. Parents who have financial problems may take it out on the children. Substance abuse may also result in child abuse, but adults may not know what they are doing till it is too late. Another reason could be due to these child abusers being victims of child abuse themselves. They treat their children the way they were treated, and it becomes vicious cycle. Positive steps should be taken to support and help parents or guardians to cope with parenting. 116 words. www.careerexams.org. Summary rating. Second, summarize the following article about bacteria is not more than 120 words. Bacteria are the smallest living things with a cellular structure. Each individual bacterium consisting of one single colorless cell, which is usually either spherical rods or rod-shaped. Individual bacteria measure from 0.0001 inches to 0.00001 inches in length, so they can be seen only with the help of high power microscope. They are so small that they can float in the atmosphere, usually as passengers or dust particles, up to a height of several thousand feet, except immediately after a heavy downpour when the air is most clean. Bacteria are present in all nature, natural as well as in drinking water that has not been purified or boiled. A large number of bacteria live in the soil down to a depth of several feet, and they are particularly abundant in feces and sewage. Thus, living bacteria are always present on the surface of our bodies and on everything around us, but they are seldom found inside the tissues of healthy plants and animals. Since most kinds of bacteria contain no chlorophyll, they cannot use light energy and synthesize therefore they have to get their food in other ways, mostly ready-made by other living things. Like plants, it can only take in dissolved food. The majority get their supply from dead remains of other organisms. Bacteria reproduce by dividing into two, and these new individuals grow so quickly that they are ready to divide again in about half an hour, hence in 10 hours under the most favorable conditions. A single bacterium can produce over a million bacteria. That is one reason for being so difficult to ensure any object is completely free from any kind of living organism. In addition, some forms of bacteria have a waxy envelope outside their cell wall and thus more difficult to kill. Few bacteria can long survive a temperature above 80 degrees Celsius in the presence of moisture. Hence, when food items are boiled, nearly all the bacteria present are killed. Pasteurization is a middler heat treatment that destroys the bacteria in milk. The rate of multiplication of bacteria is greatly slowed down at temperatures below 10 degrees Celsius. This means that food will remain unaffected by bacteria in a refrigerator. Drying is also another method of preserving food, and this dehydration of foodstuff prevents bacteria from growing and multiplying as there is insufficient moisture. Answer: bacteria are tiny colorless cells that cannot be seen with the naked eye. They are found everywhere in the atmosphere, in our water, as well as in the soil. However, they are seldom found inside the tissues of plants and animals. They are unable to produce their own food, and so they rely on other living things. Their reproduction process is through division of cells, and this happens very quickly, making it difficult to kill them. However, most bacteria are unable to survive at high temperatures in water. The reproduction process is also slowed down when it is extremely cold. Dehydration of foodstuffs will also stop the multiplication process as there is insufficient moisture of the bacteria to grow. In 19 words, but www.caribexams.org summary 3.9 exercises summarizes. First, summarizing the is not more than 120 words. Describe the life in deserts. As what geographers have estimated, about 20% of the Earth's surface is occupied by deserts. A majority of us view deserts as one unique kind of landscape, areas with little or no rainfall. In actual fact, there are differences between the deserts, though in varying degrees. While it is common for laymen like us to see deserts as rocky or covered with gravel or pebbles, there is somewhere large sand dunes inhabit it. Despite the fact that rainfall is minimal, temperatures do change in deserts, ranging from seasonal ones to daily changes. The extreme hotness and coldness are experienced in the day and night. Unfavorable conditions in deserts, especially the lack of water, have discouraged many living things from inhabiting these landscapes. Nevertheless, there are exceptionally surviving ones which, through their superb tactics, have managed to live through uh, and are still going strong. One such kind is the specialist annual plants which overcome seasonal temperature changes with their extremely hot, short, active life cycles. In events of sudden rain, the plant seeds pollute and grow very quickly to make full use of the rainwater. Their flowers bloom and shed seeds that ripen quickly in the hot sun too. Once the water runs dry, the mother plant dies, leaving behind the drought-resistant seeds waiting patiently for the next rainy season to arrive. The cacti, India native in American deserts, adapts to the dry surroundings by having unique body structures. The plant has swollen stems to help store water that carries it through months. By having sharp spines instead of leaves, water loss through respiration is minimized. Besides, these pointed pines also help the plant water of grazing animals, thus enhancing its survival period. Besides plants that are also animals with distinct surviving tactics in deserts too. For instance, king desert lizards metabolize stored fats in their bulbous tails, producing water to supplement their needs, just like what camels do with the stored food in their humps during long journeys through the deserts. Antelopes like the dogs have very low water needs and hence are able to tolerate the conditions in deserts, extracting moisture from the food they eat. Finally, there are sand grosses, desert birds which do not have special features from the dot-like nature in deserts and to survive in these hot, dry deserts. They need to spend a large part of their time flying in search of water worlds. www.caribexams.org Summarize is not more than 120 words. The advantages or disadvantages of advertisements. We are bombarded by many advertisements every day. Vendors try all means and ways to gain our attention and sell us their products or services. Advertisements appear everywhere on television programs, radios, in the papers, magazines, pamphlets, and so on. Advertisements are actually very useful, though we sometimes feel annoyed when they interrupt our favorite television programs. They provide us with free information on the products and services. There are two types of advertisement. The informative advertisement are the ones which provide us with the details of the products or services. This information is especially useful if the product or service is new. For instance, when we need to buy a computer, advertisement describing the latest models and a different function would be extremely helpful. However, only a minority of the advertisements are informative ones. Many of them belong to the second category, a persuasive kind. These advertisements not only tell us more about the products and at the same time they persuade customers to buy them by claiming that their products are superior to the rivalry ones. These claims may sometimes be untrue. Besides being informative and persuasive, advertisements also help to subsidize the prices of magazines and newspapers. Our newspapers are sold at a low price of about $1, owing to the advertisements in the papers, so otherwise the price would have been higher. While advertisements can be good helpers for shopping, they do have their shortcomings. Most advertisements seem to sell only faults of the products and services are usually hidden from the consumer. Since sometimes we feel deceived if the product or the service we bought does not turn out the way the advertisements claim to be. Sometimes the advertisements very well competitors can get very intense, especially when there are many films producing similar products. One common example is the washing powder. There are so many advertisements for the different brands the customers sometimes get confused over what they should buy. Furthermore, having more advertisements would mean that the production cost of the film would be increased. These rises in cost are usually passed on to the consumers in the form of higher prices. Hence, in conclusion, though I do advocate advertisements, I do not deny their flaws. Without them, we might have to buy things based on incomplete information or go through more complicated ways before getting to know the products or services. On the other hand, too many advertisements also complicate our buying decisions. So I would say that we cannot live without advertisements, but we must be careful how we live with them. www.caribexams.org Summary Writing 3.10 Let's sum up. A summary is shortened passage which retains the essential information of the original. It is fairly brief statement in own words of the contents of a passage, not one simply as to report back what the writer has said without making any kind of significant opinions or judgments. It's a skill worth the time and effort as students will use it throughout the academic careers and even later. It also provides benefit in reading, writing and critical thinking skills.